don't know why anyone would want me dead. I was told that you provide a unique service.
I work with a cover, blend into the background so the threat reveals itself and then eliminate the threat.
I hired you to protect me from those people, and your plan is to have a drink? Are you slipping?
So you think I let it get that far because I thought it'd be fun?
You've gone over to the other side, making the world safe for democracy. Word of advice, give it up.
I'm gonna take the gun away from you. Guns are dangerous, and I think I'm messing around.
I ask myself, why would he just put himself in front of one loaded gun after another?
I'm tired. I missed lunch. Enough already.
Are you crazy? What is it? Is it the rush or some kind of weird penance? And then it hit me. Because deep down he hopes that one of these days he'll get what he really deserves and the gun will finally go off.
Get ready to move.
You wore a vest. Where's my vest?
On your vest.
You crazy?
Let's find out.
I'd like a martini, barkeep, shaken and stirred.
Meet Chuck.
I work for the Nerd Herd.
He's gone from super nerd
Today is going to be a very bad day. We've got a new computer virus on our hands.
to super spy.
Look, something is wrong with me. I'm remembering things that I shouldn't know.
Chuck, those pictures that you saw were encoded with secrets. If you saw them, then you know them.
You're telling me all of our secrets are in his head.
And he's saving the world. At $11 an hour.
I'm gonna go over there, rescue Sarah, capture Dr. Zarno, shoot anybody who gets in my way.
So, in this plan, I basically do nothing?
You're gonna stay right here. Let's do this.
Sorry, world.
What's your real name?
Carmichael. Charles Carmichael. Chuck Bartowski.
He's the secret.
I defuse a real bomb.
Don't puke on the C4.
She's the agent.
I've been a spy all of 5 seconds, and I already have soy sauce on my shirt.
Chuck, stop saying that you're a spy. You geeks are good.
Nerds. I would say nerds probably more.
Another all-new Fox 8 Australian first. Chuck starts Wednesday, April 1, only on Fox 8.
It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
Welcome, ladies and gents. Mike Ensing is back in the house, and we are tackling two McG-produced spy shows, which are Human Target and Chuck.
Human Target was on before.
Fox, and it was often after something like House or 24. That's how I kind of got into it. It was like, what is this? This Canadian-produced thing. Danny
Yeah.
Glover's a witness. What's going on here in the very first episode? There's a guy who's kind of like the Equalizer, or I guess Liam Neeson in Taken. He's just going around and he can adapt to various situations. I guess you could say he goes by the MacGyver technique. And then, of course, I look it up and it's based off a DC Vertigo comic book. And there was like a previous like 90s adaptation by the same guys who worked on stuff like the Sentinel and other stuff. But
Yeah, Rick Springfield was in it. I never saw it, but
me neither. But yeah, I instantly in love with this. And the next thing you know, we get into Chuck, and
I
Chuck was
did
just
I did buy the original, his debut in DC Comics. It was, I think it was an Action Comics. It was a backstory. Superman
really?
was the main story, and it was a backstory. They introduced the character, and I was intrigued by it. And
Very
so I knew
cool.
about the character. And he shows that Christopher Chance shows up on like Arrow once in a while.
I think so. Yeah, it was just the
CW,
time.
not Mark Valley, but the character. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they couldn't get him back, but they just wanted to play around with that. And I did see that. I was like, wait, what? Oh, that's right. He is based off a comic book.
Now, the original concept was he would disguise himself as a person to protect them, take their place. And that's why it's human. So they try to shoot, and he knew how to dodge a bullet or whatever the heck it was. But he would disguise himself as the character he was trying to protect, and they did away with that on the Human Target show. He was more of a bodyguard.
Yeah, an adaptable bodyguard for hire, and they kind of go more into just kind of buddy movie territory where they just like the smaller guy, Jackie Earl Haley, is like the hacker, and then She McBride is basically like the front man who like picks the clients and then does like backup, like he'll do the driving, he'll let Chance take out the trash.
Yep. So yeah, they did away the Mission Impossible used to do it all the time. They'd have a face mask, or even the Tom Cruise movies do that.
It definitely seems like it's going for that mentality. It's just like this, the adaptable spy team that poses as a, I don't want to say black market, but just off color like bodyguard service.
Well, I looked a little bit up on the Rick Springfield Human Target series, which didn't last long, and apparently he just would play Christopher Chance, but then he disguised himself as the other person, but they just had another actor playing that person. So he wasn't even, they just, instead of, they pretend it was him. I don't know. I have to watch the show, but I heard it wasn't very good, but
yeah, I guess we got the better version of it then.
I think the people that put that together created The Flash, the 1990 series.
Danny Bilson and others, they have contributed scripts that became other blockbusters like The Five Bloods. You might have seen the show The Sentinel, which was a wacky UPN show. Guy with all kinds
was it Pet Fly Productions, I think, was their company?
Probably. They've written so many video games and what have you, and this was kind of refreshing because I don't know, just the humor. The show wasn't trying to be lowbrow and it wasn't trying to be highbrow. It was just like a perfect kind of popcorn. It's like I really dug the music. El Rey Network, a few years before they closed down, were showing reruns, so I got a chance to finally see season 2, let alone the whole series from the get-go. Because I was a casual viewer, and each time I tried watching it, I ran out of DVR space, so I could never watch a full episode. Unfortunately, I just was like getting bogged down with all other kinds of stuff and beginning college. But I mean, like you say, is like season 1 and 2 are kind of two separate ducks. In different corners.
Now, did the Chuck crew come in on the second season when they revamped it?
It was just McGee's company that produced both. But a crossover would have been cool. But yeah,
because they really changed the whole format of the show. All of a sudden they brought in Ilsa. Was her name Ilsa?
So she's played by Indira Varma years before Game of Thrones. Everyone else knew her on Rome, and I'm not gonna lie, she is annoying the first 2 episodes, but I actually kind of grew to like her. And I know that's not popular to say because you understand where she's from. She's got like a crazy like rich mafia family she's tried to avoid, and so I like how they're all kind of just playing around. Just no one's trying to sleep with each other or just get into violent acts. Like it's pretty much just wacky clients, and every once in a while Chance has someone from his past who like disrupts the crew, and he's just like, boy howdy, I just need some hard liquor after this is all done.
I liked it better. The first time I watched it, I thought, well, they totally changed the show, I'm going to keep watching it, but I didn't really. The second time around, I kind of appreciated it more because I knew what was coming,
Yeah,
but
because they had some slow episodes, but they were just trying to do a perfect mixture of just one case at a time, and then introduce like a twist that was like established in like the first 2 episodes.
Well, they had a big cliffhanger at the end of season 1, and they kind of wrapped. It seems like they wrapped it up in like the first 6 minutes of the show. Sean McBride's character got kidnapped and they got him out of it, and that was it. And because they told him in this new direction.
Very much like Revolution and even other older 90s shows like Martial Law. I did kind of feel like they wanted to just have that there to ensure that they got another year, and then at the same time that they wanted to just do a different voice. So yeah, when you look at it closely, you're like, what was the big deal? Faking me out, guys. But I think, I mean, this show could have definitely gone on maybe 3 more years, and unfortunately I think Fox just rescheduled it way too much, and I don't know why, because there were a lot of fun guest stars. There was
it was a gritty drama that had a nice sense of humor. Baptiste was a great character.
Very much so. It was fun seeing some other people guest star. It pretty much for me became a Spot the Battlestar Galactica actor. There's Grace Park and even Trisha Helfer, number 6 herself, was in the first one. And
I'm blanking. What's Jackie Earle Haley's character's name again?
His character name. I have the notes, and yet I'm still.
I should know that. I watched the whole series.
Okay, so for those who want to know, yes. Okay, so Mark Valley played Chance. Chi McBride played Detective Winston, who's a former inspector who uses his San Francisco police contacts and is Chance's business partner. Guerrero is Jackie Earle Haley.
Guerrero, okay, that was
an ex-assassin who went rogue, and he was part of the team. And he just has the great, dry one-liners. And Ames is a thief. Janet Montgomery, I like how she kind of incorporates herself into the situation. She's like, I'll steal for you guys.
Yeah, Winston had little patience for Guerrero, but he put up with him. And
totally. I like how the old man was played by Armin Asante, the one who put together all the various organization of mercs, because he shows up also on Chuck as a totally different role, but I just liked how he's just playing up his whole, foreign diplomat, meets career criminal persona. And there were some other fun people on
Lee Majors.
Baptiste was played by Lenny James. That's who it was.
Yeah, and Lee Majors shows up as like the first Christopher. Christopher Chance is a
Chance
like
Senior,
a James Bond type. It's like an undercover name. So, and that was kind of a neat touch to have the $6 Million Man show up after all those years.
Oh, yeah. They did a hell of a job with the casting there. I liked how they had the one guy like sent by the old man, and it's none other than Timothy Olmanson, who you might know as Lassie on Psych.
No, I never haven't watched Psych, but
dude. Comedy.
I watch Psych.
If you want Barney Miller type humor, just like gotcha. That is the show.
All right.
So, I mean, there were some other ones. I liked how there was that private inspector, Tony Hell, you might know from, who's also on Chuck, but you might know him as Buster on Arrested Development. As like, that was wacky scene, his dorky self. The main guest star though that stuck in my mind, even though she was like in one episode each season, was Lenara Varela. You might know her from playing Nysa in Blade 2, and she's the former commando gal who's just like always, each time Chance is in South America, like she's always meeting him there at the bar.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I remember her. Sure.
And in typical spy mode, like we'll give him a smooch and then slap the shit out of his face. It's like, I love you, but you drive me fucking crazy. Yeah.
Well, they spruced up their headquarters for season 2, and then now, what years did this air again? It was on
2010 to all
2010 and 2011.
Yeah, basically 2010, a little bit of 2011. Yeah, I could not believe it, but Bear McQuarrie did the score. You might know his themes from Walking Dead, Battlestar Galactica, and Terminator show around that same time. I think he did a good choice of violins.
People complain that the theme song didn't work as well in the second season with the
what is Tim Jones?
They changed it or something. They did something to it.
I mean, Tim Jones was scoring Chuck, so it made sense that they brought him on as the same production company. But
anyway,
I don't know. People like to complain because why not?
Well, I was wondering about the year, because in the second season they were throwing computer graphics around, kind of like on Iron Man, the movie. Remember Tony Stark would do that? He'd be throwing screens up around in the air. Remember that?
He kind of would do a bit of that, yeah.
I wondered which was first, the Iron Man movie or...
Oh, Iron Man came out in 2008, so yeah.
Yeah,
probably
so they're kind of copying that. Yeah, I guess it's not a trademark thing. Yeah. I just got, Layla, the episode Lockdown second season, she's kind of a precursor to Felicity Smoke on Arrow, the computer whiz.
Oh, well, see, I think that goes back to the blonde geek on Smallville, let alone Chloe on 24.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Arrow and this show, I think, definitely was 2.0. It was just popularizing it even further. Just like, see, you gotta have a blonde, brainiac, witty hacker chick who can hack into anything.
Which is not totally realistic, but you never know.
I don't think anyone can do any realistic computer hacking, because it's kind of like when hot wiring a car is like, it doesn't happen right away. You can do
Doesn't
it.
work that easy. Yeah.
It'll probably take 20 minutes. And by then you'll be shot in the head by the assassin, and they just can't help themselves.
Communication Breakdown episode had a brutal ending involving Ilsa. I put down it was directed like this shower scene in Psycho, but I'm gonna have to look at that.
Oh yeah, because their plane was shot down by someone who wanted, I think, Ilsa and Chance dead, and that was an intense plane crash. I actually dug the blue screen on that, because the blue screen in like the first season is a little rough, especially the one where it starts off with a incident on a plane and you're wondering what's going on, and then it kind of ends a little anticlimactically. It's like, okay, we killed the assassin, now what? But also Jonathan E. Steinberg wrote for a few episodes of this. You might, if that sounds familiar, it's because he's one of the crafters behind The Old Man TV show with Jeff Bridges, but he's also was one of the creators behind Jericho, an apocalyptic modern day show, as well as Black Cells. So all these guys pretty much are they're genre guys. That's why they kind of do this so well. They're just all about just an exciting, just side divergence, basically. Just it was always on at an awkward time. I think it would have worked better as maybe a Friday night show. If you don't want to go to the movies, you can watch this show and enjoy the slugfest and then the witty moments. But it's a shame. It's a shame it didn't.
I wrote these notes down when I was watching the show last spring, and I've got a note here, and this is about my last note on that show. But the episode remember the episode Kill Bob?
Oh yeah, that's later on.
Yeah. There's a plot hole. I said, where's the discussion after Bob is rescued from the second attempt with wife? I don't quite know.
So for those, it gets a little more. They do a lot. So season 1 is kind of more help a client out,
right?
And like the Equalizer, and then season 2 is pretty much becomes the buddy show where they're doing a little more what they like did maybe in 3 episodes of season 1, but doing more of that is like doing more like espionage, more just breaking in stuff. And that one and the other one before that, when Guerrero got framed, was just wild, because like they were basically just they're having to steal some like classified info and break into like some mansions. That was wild. But I do agree, like those last 3 episodes, they do kind of abruptly edit and do a lot of montages, and you're like, whoa, hold up, I wasn't
I was following this plot line. What happened? There wasn't resolution or something on that, I guess.
I guess some Fox executive must have just run interference, or someone must have gotten word that they were not getting picked up, or maybe they weren't, and it just was coincidence. They were going to explain it later on, but that's a shame, because
there's several shows that get canceled, and like whatever happened to the Castaways? Of course, we had TV movies, but Gilligan's Island.
Jeez. There's a lot.
That's the nature of television, though. Yeah, you get different writers in there sometimes, or the show gets canceled, and there's plot threads left open.
1,000%.
I just watched Miami Vice all the way through, and at the last episode, they just turned in their badges, and that was the end of it. So.
Yeah, it was like, there's no better way.
Yeah, that show kind of got crazy in its last couple seasons too. I mean,
I actually went through a bunch of them recently, and it's like there's some episodes in like season 1 is like not quite there yet. I love how it ended.
Yeah.
You're firing that machine gun a little too close to your witness's face. Just saying. Little bloopers.
They had an infamous UFO episode, which just turned out to be a dream, or was it one of those types?
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Yeah,
Years before X-Files.
Yeah, and there was one where Tubbs got basically kidnapped by this ex-con that he busted, and then he supposedly reformed, and he was like imprisoning people in his mansion, and it got really, some of them got really strange, you know. But I watched the entire run again, so
thank God Dick Wolf learned from some mistakes there and did some better work.
yeah, that was the 80s. But yeah, Human Target is basically action bubblegum. I describe it.
Yeah, and it either sticks with you or it doesn't, but you don't regret. It doesn't. It leaves a good taste, though. And
yeah, I wish it had gone on. I wish it had gone on. It was a good premise, and at least the character does. Like I said, the character does show up on some CW shows like Arrow and stuff once in a while. But then there's Chuck with Zach Levy in, how do you pronounce, Yvonne Strahovski?
Yvonne Strahovski. Yeah. So Chuck is a pretty cool thing. So Buy More, which is basically standing in for Best Buy.
Yep.
Is all know-it-all bunch of techs played by the title character Chuck and a bunch of other college dropouts. He gets infiltrated by so Sarah, hold up. Does she work for the CIA or does she work for someone else? Okay, so yeah, he gets infiltrated by two spies who have been assigned by the NSA and the CIA. She is a former CIA agent, and then Colonel Casey who is he's the NSA guy, and it's just so wild how the creators said in interviews, and I remember just repeating that. I saw only a little bit of it in there, but yeah. So Yvonne Strahovski plays Sarah. She's basically a parody of Sidney Bristow on the show Alias, and John Casey was a parody of Jack Bauer from 24.
All right. Okay.
In all honesty, though, I think they become their own special characters just because the show is just fun. We would every once in a while miss episodes, and iTunes was now a thing at this point in 2007, and every once in a while we just would randomly just put on episodes just to test out our HD like speakers and TV. And we did it when we got a new 1080 TV around like 2017, and we just were putting on episodes. Next thing you know, we're breezing for like a few different ones. Like, that's funny. My God. And so did you ever watch this with any friends and family?
No, I just watched by myself all the way through. HBO Max has the entire run. So
that's right. I got you on this one. But so yeah, Robert Duncan McNeil, that's right. Tom Paris from Star Trek Voyager was one of the head producers on this and directed a lot of episodes.
Okay.
But yeah, Chris Fedek. So this was the brainchild of Josh Schwartz and Chris Fedek, and this is where Chris Fedek became very incorporated into my mind. He's written for DC Legends of Tomorrow, the serial killer mystery comedy Prodigal Son, and Scorpion, which is a very similar kind of show. Just a bunch of hackers get together and go on missions. It's crossed over with Hawaii Five-0 and the NCIS shows. That's not how big it is. But so he developed it with Josh Schwartz, who was trying to find someone to produce for his company. Josh Schwartz was like the youngest showrunner. Like he was like 25 when the OC got picked up by Fox, and they just needed another hit show for Warner Brothers. And Chris Fedek says on his Apple page that Schwartz said that the idea of Chuck came from Fedek. They had both gone to college. Fedek pitched him the initial concept, thought it was a real opportunity for a really funny show. While Schwartz wanted that, and Fedek was actually thinking it could be more of a thriller, so they just talked back and forth, and it evolved from there. They came up with a fusion of both their sensibilities, and it was a fun collaboration, they said.
It's pretty violent for a
it is wild how they do it. Like they'll show like a blue mark, but not to where it's like gruesome. And so it's like you can show it to family. It's still 13 appropriate. And yet it's kind of, I really guffawed like I think around season 4, they started having a few actors come in from like Community and guest star. I think what's their name? Is like Shirley was in one, and then there was another one. Danny Pooney, Ahmed himself was in one, and I was just guffawing because it was like, I see, because Community is on before this, and that's another kind of cult show that NBC respected their fans at this point. They really wanted to keep people on because they were just trying to figure out Hulu streaming and other stuff. And I do have to say, I do applaud most of the cast on this. The boss, Mark Christopher Lawrence, I thought was very amusing. You might know him as one of the psych wards in Terminator 2. All these other guys is like they've been in all other kinds of stuff, and you kind of remember them mainly just for like their code names, like just when Chuck incorporates his family into this, and Ellie and Captain Awesome, his brother-in-law. But then when they had like I still recognize Bonita Federici, who's the main like CIA gal, Diane, with the colonel suit. I just really guffawed at her, and every time I see her pop up in something, whether serious or comedic, I'm like, hey, that gal. And having Scott Bakula be Chuck's dad, spy dad, that was kind of amusing. Gary Cole from Office Space, and Harvey Birdman himself was Sarah's dad. He was like a thief, and she somehow became a spy. And there's all plenty of other just fun stuff in there, like Brandon Ruth, from Superman Returns and Legends of Tomorrow. He shows up as Shaw, and it's just funny how at one point it's like he's having to make himself pass out, and they're like, oh, okay, Superman, will you wake up? I'm like, I see what you did there.
Well, yeah, they had some DC references.
John Larroquette was on there.
It's not based on any DC characters, though. As Chuck
but it might as well.
But they refer to the DC universe quite a bit.
Really?
So yeah, it's a little more cartoony than Human Touch, which is actually a DC Human Touch. It's a spring
Human Touch. There was a show called Touch.
Human Target. I used to write HT all the time when I was making notes on Springsteen. It was Human HTLT, Human Touch, Lucky Charm. So Human Target, I meant.
Oh man,
Chuck is a little more cartoony than Human Target.
Right. There's even the one CIA handler guy, Langston, who's played by Tony Todd. You might know him as playing Worf's brother on Star Trek, as well as been in the Night of the Living Dead remake and other blockbusters like The Rock and Final Destination. Tall, elder, deep voice black guy. He was often like assigning the missions, and he like
up
in an explosion.
I remember it. Yeah,
and it's kind of funny how they just slowly revealed just all other kinds of just subtle stuff. They had Chevy Chase being a real slime ball there.
I put down, how many times in the series do we see someone seconds away from being discovered yet still managed to hide?
They managed to hide, and so even
and there's always in the formula. Almost every episode in the last 10 to 12 minutes, it's like there's no way they're going to get out of this, and then they get out of it.
Yeah,
but it's a fun formula to see how they did it. It works.
It kind of like Burn Notice. It kind of just embraced the whole absurdity and then just went for it. So if you take it as a Nintendo 64, PlayStation kind of logic, you'll have fun with it. But there are times where it's like, yeah, just have fun. But
yeah, it works. That's what I'm saying. They didn't overdo it too much. The fun of it is like, oh, come on, but then you still like the fact that they got out of it. I was
still a loyal.
You still don't know how did they do it though. Then okay, I guess they did it.
The creators said they were also inspired by The Office, and I think they do make good use of just all the buy more employees. What haven't they done? And I like how they kind of change them up. Like at first when they start out, they're typical shit talkers, kind of perverted, and then they change it up to where they're actually trying to do like different things, like host birthday parties, and they tie it in with like their business model. It's like, hey, those crazy spy guys who are following you, who you claim aren't spies, but we're onto you. It's like, how do you have them advertise for the store? And of course they have no human skills. So Sarah is always basically beating up every other guy who even, stares at her as, and Casey is basically always growling, and he's like, it's great. But
what was her cover? The first two seasons, she was like, was it the the Wiener Schnitzel or something like that.
I think so. She was always like at the hot dog stand next
The
door.
hot dog stand, yeah, and that was her
So
cover.
coincidental. They opened it up and no one thought to ask any questions. Yolanda has gone on to do some pretty cool stuff. She was in the Tomorrow War movie recently, and she was also on Dexter and Handmaid's Tale. And
she was Handmaid's Tale.
And Adam Baldwin, everyone knows from all kinds of blockbusters, Independence Day, Full Metal Jacket, Ordinary People, and has been on other blockbuster shows like Firefly and The Last Ship, X-Files. And I think this was all kind of a cool evolution for all these actors. I mean, Zachary Levi, he'd done some sitcom stuff and guest star stuff, but I'm sorry, so many people did not see Chuck, but when I saw him becoming Shazam, I was like, I'm in. I'm glad that he's finally getting to do a leading movie role.
They were weren't they gonna kill Chuck at some point?
I think so, even though
how did that get resolved? They just forgot about it, or they didn't do it.
They kind of just did the whole. Someone will just have. They kind of went back to the whole board of is like, okay, they just can't get close to each other, and even though we're gonna eventually bring them back together, and I think that's what my sister mainly loved. What's his name? Matt Bomer from White Collar, the Bryce guy.
Oh, okay.
They're in a love triangle, and then he gets killed in like a car wreck caused.
Oh, the one that gave Chuck the.
Yeah, you think he's dead in the first episode when retrieving it.
The intersect. He gave him the intersect. Okay.
He gave him the intersect, which to describe this to other people, it is kind of like the Matrix or Johnny Mnemonic. It's a cyberpunk thing. Is like. He just is able to assess all this stuff. It's kind of funny, much like Psych. It's like, the guy is just too brilliant and he can write it off however he wants it. But it is so amusing how you just look forward to is like seeing who's going to identify as someone who's probably means trouble. And half the time they're just not subtle at all. They're just always coming in to just assassinate him at the freaking store. And you're like, they could just wait afterwards instead of.
Wait in the parking lot, exactly. Yeah.
Jesus, worst hitman school ever. What did you think of the other recurring guest stars? Like they had the mummy guy as Vincent. Arnold Vosloo, you might have seen him in a bunch of things.
Not remembering that one. Wasn't Paulie from The Sopranos on an episode?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And then it's like next thing you know, they're talking to him. Next thing you know, they're dead. They're like, whoa, this just got into a messy crime scene. And
I think the Fed that was working with Pussy on The Sopranos, that actor was on there too.
Yeah, Louis Lombardi, I saw him on here.
Yep.
He was Edgar on 24, and it was just cool to see a lot of these guys. There's all kinds of guest stars on here. They had Stone Cold Steve Austin as like a recurring assassin. Even freaking Robin Gibbons of all people was on here, but Ray Wise, you might know as RoboCop, he was a recurring guy on season 4, but
his dad was Quantum Leap.
Right, Scott Bakula was there.
Scott Bakula. And his mom is from the Terminator movies.
Yeah, Linda Hamilton. This was a cool role for her. And I love how in the opening, like season 4 premiere, like she's getting away from her captors, and lo and behold, Dolph Lundgren is like the main head of the merge. Yeah. And this was when the Expendables were becoming big. So like season 4 did have a few other funny episodes, like where they show like some of Casey's old team trying to kill him, and is like none other than like Bautista and Eric Roberts. Jesus.
We'll return after these messages.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
We let things pile up in the DVR, we add them to our queues, we wait for the DVDs and Blu-rays. We time shift. The Time Shifters Podcast. Sci-fi, horror, fantasy, superheroes, comedy, action, film, television, maybe some not-so-current events. Find us on iTunes or at timeshifterspodcast.com.
Cool thing about Blind Knowledge is we are in multiple countries. We are worldwide all across the globe. We are in the US. We are in the UK. We are in Canada, Germany, India, Japan. We're in Australia, y'all. BlindKnowledge.com. Now back to the feature presentation.
Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, all things that we love, all manga that were originally published in the legendary magazine Weekly Shonen Jump.
But not every series can run for 300 chapters and have a hit anime. This is David.
This is Jordan.
We're the hosts of Shonen Flop. Each episode we look at manga that ran in Jump that didn't quite make it.
We discuss what it did wrong, what it did right, how the series could have turned itself around, and ultimately, was it a flop or not?
We're on all your favorite podcast apps, and you can find us at shonenflop.com.
Keep on flopping, floppers.
They did some breaking the fourth wall kind of episodes once in a while too. That was kind of a cool choice. Hannah was kind of a potential like love interest for Chuck, and that was Kristen Krug from Smallville, Lois Lane.
Okay.
Season 5, I think the highlight for me was definitely seeing Gertrude, who's kind of hanging out at the Buy More and kind of a love interest for Casey, and she's played by Carrie Ann Moss, who was Trinity in Matrix. But after all, I just got to say, season 5 did kind of lose me after a while, especially when they had freaking Bo Derek as what's his name? Morgan's mom. I was that's Morgan didn't get enough attention, and then when he finally got attention, it's in like the later seasons. And season 4, I kind of just got through it just because Lauren Cohen. This was after she had done Supernatural and before Walking Dead. She was on a similar show, very much like this, believe it or not, called Whiskey Cavalier, which had even a few Chuck writers on it. But
I noticed something else in season 5. There's a lot of disturbing, violent scenes against Sarah. She got beat up quite a bit. It was a little over the top, I thought.
I do recall a bunch of interrogation episodes.
Yeah,
there'd even. I mean, when
I thought it was a little too much for the tone of the show.
Yeah, because that's just it. Like when they got serious, you only wanted it when, like, it was amusing in season 3 and yet serious at the same time. When, like, Chuck basically gets his sister and in-law out of the house. They reunite with dad, and yet they're kind of on the run briefly. They got to hang tight and just report that we're not coming into work, and explain later. But it was cool to see them on the run from the assassins. But then, like you say, later on, they kind of didn't balance the elements as well. They had some I don't know why. I just thought the edits were also a little cheaper too. Like, it's like they're doing a lot of quick zooms and everything, and it just looks like a video game. It's like, it's kind of not what you can edit these action scenes so much better.
Yeah, and I wrote there's a great denouement, Chuck against Sarah's quote mentor unquote that was mistreating her. I guess he finally
and some of the other bosses that would come in, it would always be very amusing, in an off-color, like dark, like as dark as it got was they would sometimes be killed by the assassins, and then it was just, I wonder why they didn't come into work the next day. It was a way of writing them off and making it off-color funny. But for the most part, in the first few seasons, if Chuck got captured, he was using comedy to get out of it and stall before Sarah or Casey rescue him. But then it's like Sarah gets tortured in one episode, and then like Casey like falls off a ledge in season 4. He's like, how did he even survive that?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And that was a little just sudden. Like he's listening
you thought the character was done. Yeah. And then
he was listening on a conversation, and you're like, okay, it's a little more serious than I would like. But season 4, I pretty much got through it because, again, Hamilton was awesome as the mom and got to do some dry lines, and Timothy Dalton. You got freaking James Bond from the.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
As Volkov. And so, Lauren Cohen is playing.
There's got to be a spoiler. He turns out to be a good guy eventually, right? For him.
Yeah, it's like like when he's first introduced, they didn't do a good job introducing him, because you're like, yeah, he's clearly playing you guys for fools. You guys were born yesterday, apparently. You've had 3 years of this and you haven't caught on. And he got away. And then next thing you know, he's like, yeah, I'm doing it for my daughter, Vivian, who he's trying to turn against Chuck, basically. He's like, he wants her to basically kill, and she just finds Chuck charming, so she doesn't kill him. It's just camp.
There was a scene with Sarah's ne'er-do-well dad. It's like he was like a con artist, and he was like involving her in his cons when she was a young kid and stuff like that. But there's something involving a piggy bank that kind of made kind of touching scene.
It was kind of fun.
He gives a piggy bank to her at the end of the episode or something, and it, I forget, it had the money that she got for. I forget. I'd have to watch it again, but it was kind of touching. I thought they ended the episode nice with that.
Oh, totally. You remember Jill in season 2, played by Jordana Brewster, Fast and Furious chick?
I don't watch.
Brunette haired with the glasses.
Okay.
She was like the hacker gal in like season 2, and
okay, yeah.
She was both interesting. Then after a while, I was kind of like, yeah, she's unfortunately becoming a plot device. It's like eventually everyone just. So basically, this whole show basically follows the whole Scarecrow and Miss King kind of formula. It's like
right.
Normal Joe, average Joe, and a spy falling in love, and they're not going to get together. And
2 finale didn't have a big shootout at a wedding or something.
That was outrageous. It's like,
yeah,
it's all happening outside, and since they got silence pistols, no one notices.
Okay, yeah. Well, I thought it was reminiscent. When Max and 99 got married on Get Smart, they had a big shootout during the wedding too, and I think it was a throw. I wouldn't doubt that it was a callback.
I kind of felt like John Larroquette's character Montgomery was kind of like the Maxwell Smart of the show. Is like he was kind of referencing that, but yeah, it was wild.
Well, in Get Smart, Chuck is kind of like Maxwell Smart, and Yvonne is like 99 because she was the smarter of the two. He's kind of the doofus, So
it's got elements of everything.
There's a little Get Smart element to that.
Get Smart, Scarecrow, Miss King, a little bit of Lethal Weapon. It's even fun spotting the bloopers every once in a while. When Chuck is first having to land a helicopter, you can totally tell it's a dummy in the copter. There's no way they're land that. But don't look at it too long and just go with it. But yeah, it's
Well, it's TV. Yeah,
fun
it's
show.
TV.
Oh man.
There's so many bad people in Burbank. It's kind of like Murder, She Wrote. Always murderers out in.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't have. That would have been amusing.
Well, they did a Die Hard takeoff too.
That was hysterical. Having Powell and the actual actor, Reginald Vell Johnson, come back to play him. So yeah,
that's right.
You're welcome. Chuck is kind of in the Die Hard universe.
Yeah.
Although that
isn't there a theory that that cop from Die Hard plays the same character in the TV show? It's all the same. I saw that online somewhere that somebody theorizes that he's the same character.
Yeah, because he's a cop. Reginald Vell Johnson always plays a cop, and then by that logic, you can say maybe the cell guard in Ghostbusters or the detective in Turner and Hooch is also the Reginald Vell Johnson universe. Yeah, that episode was overall fun. I kind of didn't like how at this point, this is before Sarah has told Chuck, I'm a spy, I'm spying on you, I can do awesome stuff. And that's when they have to talk about their trust and everything. And Michael Rooker was his usual self, playing a traitorous villain. But there's a lot of fun villains. I like how even Casey has to confront like his mentor who like trained him, and it's Robert Patrick, freaking T-1000.
Yeah.
And that same year I had seen him on like a NCIS episode playing a bad apple. Was such a big character. They didn't bring him back, but they had him like mentioned on like a few other like crime photos in like another episode. I'm like, jeez, he's going to town. He is the colonel. He was on the unit, so he's got to play a colonel now. Yeah, who's your favorite character, would you say, in this fun show?
I kind of got a crush on Yvonne, but that's a whole.
Well, yeah, I think everyone did. Everyone. I couldn't believe that she was a Australian actress. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, they hide the accent, yeah.
And then just seeing her play. what's so funny is she just was appearing in just all kinds of movies and shows at that time, like this kind of elevated her career. And then next thing you know, I know people who like just knew her from all other stuff. They knew her from like doing some cartoon voiceovers. She was in Killer Elite with Jason Statham briefly, and I had pals who were gamers, and they knew her as playing Miranda in the Mass Effect trilogy games. It was like so, and the character even looked like her, so they especially had a crush. But it was just so funny how just you can pick any character; they're pretty much all agreeable. Like,
yeah,
they're not to where they're just too jerky to where you're like, I just can't get behind them. Is like they all have just surprising elements, and when they reveal their surprises, you're like, that makes sense. I knew something was off about you. Tell me more.
Well, Zach Levy, he does a great job too.
He did so good. All these actors were just perfect castings.
I thought his sister was kind of the character was kind of what's the word? Not annoying, just kind of full of herself. It's always about her, you know.
Well, that's kind of what was fun. She's basically the Valley girl who's been successful, and then you get to know about her. And I guffawed when they showed like the flashback to her and Captain Mayhem's, like, I don't know, Captain Awesome's first wedding.
Well, then I think you find more about them as in their childhood, where she kind of took care of Chuck, so you kind of understand why she's kind of annoying. You know,
isn't it wild though how it's like then they show her in-laws, and you know, they introduce it to Awesome's parents, and they're none other than Bruce Boxleitner and Morgan Fairchild, and you're like, of course, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was just kind of fun how like Awesome just like was just so, he had it all. He's like the rich doctor, and yet at the same time he's a little shallow-minded at times. And then it's like Ellie is just kind of over controlling for Chuck, and then sometimes realizes later on she hasn't bothered to actually ask Chuck what he wants to do with his life, and is like, yeah, you should probably do that before you offer some advice. He's not a loser, he just happens to work at the Best Buy store making decent living.
Yeah, Jeff and Lester were fun little sidekicks too. And in fact,
what season was it where the Buy More kind of got burned down partially? Like it had some damage.
I can't remember.
There was one where it's like, can't cover it up. It blew up. we were away.
Oh, then it was away. Then it was fine the next episode.
Yeah, or at least 2 episodes down. It's like they just had to cover up. It's like, someone's paying for that. We'll just take the hit, just because that's where the fun really does become. Because sometimes the assassins will be very sloppy, and they'll have to. Their job will basically be to distract customers or just put up the closed early, sign. And it's a lot of fun mayhem, like you say. And I did like Jeffrey and Lester's back and forth stuff. Vixen had some recurring roles.
Pretty much went to prison for trying to kill him with the gas, because he realized he was inhaling gas fumes or something, and that's what made him kind of dopey. And then he straight on. Then he wanted him back that way, so he was like piping gas into the room. Remember that? And then he found out about it, they sent him to prison.
Oh, Jeff. Yeah.
It's like, but then they got back to they were friends again.
Yeah, totally. It was so wild how they just slowly kind of got in on it. Slowly. It's like, okay, can't cover up anything now. And they had some good just back and forth rapport, and it helped that a lot of these guys had been at part of the Groundlings and just Comedy Store and just other just LA improv scenes, so they just had that kind of just reaction that just reads well instead of trying too hard to be funny.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think the series was. I think it was at its best late in season 3, right in the middle there.
Totally.
The storyline was really good.
I didn't really even tune in for like the finale, but when I did, like I saw parts of it, and I was like, and when Yvonne was doing like a press release for 24, she was like, we're still talking about the Chuck movie. I'm like, I doubt it. It's past its prime now, but I would love a reunion movie, but it's just too late now. It's just,
yeah.
It was one of those.
Don't mess with it.
I think after like season 3, just no one could keep up with it after a while. and the
I
ratings
like.
were
I like the. Did you watch the final episode, right?
yes, but
So I like the ambiguous way it ends. It's kind of like, will they or won't they get back together? And it's up to the viewer to think. That's
Yeah.
something you can talk about with people that watch the show. And I think they're gonna get back. I don't know.
I think it just went 2 years a little too long, but I can't blame it. I don't regret a single moment of what joy it was, of what light laughs. My grandmother watched this show. It was just one of those shows, she and my uncle, her son, would often do TV watching parties at our house and vice versa. We come over to their house and watch a bit of everything. And it was always kind of a nightmare sometimes because, my uncle wants something that is very lighthearted. He, unless it's Star Wars, he doesn't want anything that's depressing or sad. And he would compromise every once in a while. He's like, okay, I'll do NCIS. Okay, I'm not doing CSI with you. Yeah. I need a little bit of everything. And I can't do some of these other violent shows. They're just too much. It's just stressing me out. And so it was wild how, this was just fun because just the villains would be very over the top, that they invite the campy moments, and there would be, just like you say, like Human Target was doing the outrageous hacking, and this was doing it better in terms of, it's like, this is gonna be insane, but your jaw is still gonna drop, even though it's gonna be outrageous and unrealistic, because it's still gonna keep you in suspense. And like when they first even meet freaking I think Hannah, in one episode, they're having to like stop a plane from like going out of control. It is like, this computer's been hijacked. It's like, jeez. And that all the words, fortunately, Chuck can do, like, again, he's like, I love how, like, even when they, in season 3, when his dad gets taken and they're infiltrating like the secret quarters of NSA, is like they practically play a Born Identity theme. I was like, that is awesome. And even when they're doing all the fight scenes and he's gonna win, they're kind of still just fun. And
right.
My co-host John actually just got into it because I think this is just a dad show. Because I kid you not, his dad was looking for something to watch, and his dad had like seen parts of it and just started binging it just now on HBO Max. So hopefully there is an afterlife for this show. Mm-hmm. And it got some nominations and wins by even TV Guide and Saturn and Teen Choice noms. So I'm glad that some people were watching this. I wasn't watching those channels at that point or keeping up with them.
I noticed there's a lot of episodes where Chuck is kind of doing a Columbo, where you think Columbo's big secret was he's investigating these murders and they don't take him seriously because he's kind of a doofus. And he turns, and Chuck will do that too. You think he's okay, and all of a sudden he'll turn the tables on him and you realize he's doing sneaky spy stuff on him, and he caught him,
right?
Kind of like he nabs him by playing the dummy, and so that was kind of a neat part of that character.
Oh yeah, and they were just so good at being just dry one minute and then unpredictable the next.
Yep. Mark, it was fun seeing Mark Hamill show up in season 5. I think he's in.
That was wild. And I remember my brother just guffawed. He was like, "That's freaking Luke Skywalker, man! He got fat."
Yeah, well, he played like a mobster, wasn't he? Or...
Yeah, in like another country, and he's just, his usual evil Mark Hamill self.
I'm just seeing what else I got. They did the Bo Derek episode. I thought they did a Memento parody, the movie Memento.
Yeah, it was kind of a who's who killed who.
Yeah. There's a funny line. It's out of context. I can't remember. I laughed out loud when I saw it. The line is, "Are there any more donuts?" Somewhere in the middle of the series, it just fit the scene. Are there any more donuts? I wish I knew what it was now, but if you see,
they were so good at that though. They were always have just this. I'm out of donuts.
But it had something to do. It just, I don't know. I have to. Season 2. It's in season 2, episode 6. If you want to look it up. So watch. I want to wait for that line. Are there any more donuts? Yeah. What else have I got?
I think that was just it. It's like someone kept stealing the donuts, and then that was kind of the thing. Is like they meet at a donut store, and that's where the bad guy was, or some shit like that. Oh.
And how can the feds have hiding place? How can the feds have hiding places at Bymore and Jill's place of work, etc., and get away with it all that whole time? Nobody finds them out. Well, Morgan finds them out, but
thank God it's a comedy. You know, it's
but it's TV. Yeah, it's TV. Casey, it took me a while to like Casey, but then he grows on you. I think you said the same thing.
He's too much of a hard ass in the first season where you're just like, shut up. Let me run around, fool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a winning combo, even when it kind of just runs out of steam, even when it's not perfect. It's just it's just really just it makes you just smile. It's just that kind of show.
Yeah. I watched the whole thing almost every day.
Oh man, you were sending me so many texts. I was like, I know what episode you're on.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bymore is obviously Best Buy, and then the Nerd Herd is a playing Geek Squad,
And playing Geek Squad, I liked how they did that. That was an invite to basically incorporate all the other quirky, weird geeks into the whole crowd, and they would always have something kind of funny going on during the thing that they were trying to avoid a catastrophe from happening. But I'm with you. Like it's a kind of show where, like you say, you never feel left out. Like there's always reminding everybody, here's what this is happening, and they would just always characterize them. So if, let's say, Casey and what's his name, who I would have to say is my favorite character, Morgan, they're playing video games and they're not leaving you out of the fold. And it's like, see, I get it. This is funny because they're reminding everybody is like, here's a guy who's doesn't have socially acceptable behavior because he's a spy. He's been brainwashed and everything. And then here's a Morgan who's a geek who doesn't have any friends, and he's finding an unlikely friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do plenty of other stuff. They always had the intros down where it's like, whoa, what's going on here? It was never taking its time to where you're like, okay, what does this factor in? I did like the boss, Big Mike, because he's kind of standoffish, again, kind of like Casey the first season. Then after a while, he's like, hey, you guys are cool. You're my friend.
He had that Marlin up in his office, and it kept breaking, and they'd fix it again.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. And he would always, at first he's kind of mean to everybody, but then he just ends up being their friends instead of just being the jerk who assigns them to a shift that, is going to be very crazy or be overburdened with, especially when they're doing like tech expos and other stuff. It's like, yeah, you're always looking forward to it because it's not going to distract from the laughs. It's just going to make their life a little more complicated. There's like, yeah, we got this big store opening event. We got to advertise and sell this amount of products. And lo and behold, the guys who want Chuck and Sarah dead happen to be at this expo as well. Yeah. It would cut around the formulaicness by just being very amusing with just how the shit would hit the fan. You're like, oh, okay, I see.
I got a note here. There was a nice kung fu, remember the TV show Kung Fu?
Yes.
There's a nice kung fu flashback when Chuck finally gets Shaw. So I don't remember.
Yeah. Shaw is teaching him how to be like a badass or some shit. And
okay.
Even Casey has one episode where, what's his name? Oh, you would know him. His name is but yeah, I think the episode was called The Sensei, and there's this Carl Lumbly. That's who it was. Yeah, he was on a Firefly episode, and he was on Alias, and he was the voice of Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoon. But yeah, you know him from Dr. Sleep, as well as one of the cops, Marcus, on Cagney and Lacey. And I just loved how he just in fact, remember, he's Bradley in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's used to playing senseis and friends, but I loved how he just starts off in case he has all this grown out mustache. He's just karate chopping this shit out of him with a giant stick. And he ends up being the big bad who like wants Casey dead or something, or wants him to come back or some shit. But yeah, no, he's an underrated character actor, and I just love how just all these guest stars were just so well chosen. Like even if they were just doing basically, like you say, just kind of playing up another character, like the Lever Quick character is basically. I remember they make fun of the dirty martini joke, that the James Bond has, and I love how they were joking. Is like, you got to stir it this way and do it that way, and it's like he just gives all this other dating advice to Morgan, and Morgan is like, "Oh, you're so cool," and I just like, my father was and brother were even guffawing back in the day because you're like, "Yeah, is that actually a thing?" I'm like, "Well, even if it isn't, it should be."
There was I got a note here that season 4, episode 1, there's a Seinfeld reference. Vandalay Industries shows up. And also
awesome.
The Chinese menu clue in that same episode is very QAnon. So I was wondering if the QAnon guy was a Chuck fan. So now that's got me. I can't remember what.
I wouldn't be surprised if some conspiracy asshole took the show out of whack and thought it was legit. It's like, guys, it's a fun show. Stop. But that's wild. I think I do vaguely recall the Seinfeld reference, and everyone brought it up. It was like, wait, what's going on? Oh, I see.
Yeah, you have to look back. I'm gonna have to look back at that episode. There's something about the Chinese menu clue. I put very QAnon, so maybe I was just reading about QAnon at the time. But
maybe they just randomly took the logo because they thought it was cool and said, "Hey, other idiots who were trying to brainwash will love this."
I also put down when Chuck's hair gets thinner, about season 4 or so. So do the plots.
Oh, fair enough.
And then wasn't the general at the Buy More for a while, and then they just kind of abandoned that? She wasn't there anymore. Early in season 4, she wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, the mom I think Linda Hamilton had a crazy schedule or something. I can't imagine why. Maybe she was at a convention. I don't know. I can't imagine what she was more busy with, but maybe it was long hours and she needed some time off. I don't know.
Yeah, later seasons are more farcical. Is that the word? Farcical. More of a farce.
Yeah, it starts out as a farce, but then it becomes a little unintentionally funny in some areas too. So it just can't help itself.
And also in later seasons, if you're a fan of cat fights, there's a lot of.
They always had that, but then there were times where sometimes it got to be a little too much of a guy's show for me. When it's like they'd have all these fantasies. I'm like, oh, okay, you get away with it because of your comedy, but seriously,
yeah. In the Me Too movement, I don't know how much they'd like that. Some of the early shows, especially.
I think they would skip past those. I think they get away with it because again, it's being funny and it's not degrading them. But at the same time, it would still be.
Yeah. Apparently, Morgan references Human Target in season 4, episode 6. There's a human. He says something about a human. So you're a human target. And I was wondering if that's about the same time Human Target was.
I wouldn't deny it. McGee was producing both these shows. He was best known for the Charlie's Angels movies and Terminator Salvation. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was just the writers were all working together in the same room and said, "Hey, how about we work in a reference?"
Yeah,
because similar shows, and I think what they missed out on, they could have done a David E. Kelly, Dick Wolf thing, or even a St. Elsewhere thing, where they could have had characters appear on the other show. And that way either network could have gotten some decent ratings, but I think everyone's just got a more stricter. It's like nothing can be on another network. It's all got to be on the same thing, which is a shame. But I do feel like it is kind of an unofficial community crossover just by having those two other, Shirley and Ovid make a appearance. And it's like, obviously they're playing a different character, but are they? Because it's not too much different from the personas we know them from.
Yeah. I'm about done here.
Yeah, this has been a delight having you on here. What can we? What are you working on now in retirement life?
I might get a part-time job at the library just to pay down a credit card. But I worked at the library in high school, so I also a couple quick notes on Chuck. Yet Chuck versus Phase 3, season 4, episode 9. I put my favorite so far of the season: Kidnap Chuck, Sarah Badass, dream sequences.
Yeah. Going to space was a little much.
Chuck versus the Push mix. I put great twists in that one. So plot twist, I'm assuming, yeah. And there's apparently in the background there's a Flash Rebirth poster on the wall.
There's a lot of wacky posters, yeah.
Another DC reference, yeah. So anyway,
it's been great having you on here.
Yeah, I'm actually I picked up a book through Amazon, Rock Song Index, 7,500 songs of the rock era, 1947 to 2000. I'm going through them all and recording them all. It's going to take a while.
It's going to be a while.
But it goes every year, and then just what this guy considers rock songs. It's kind of a fun project I'm working on right now, besides recording podcasts like yours and others. So anyway,
very cool.
I guess we covered Chuck and we covered Human Target.
Yep, 2 foot shows. Human Target you can pretty much find on third-party internet sites, since only the DVD of season 1's out of print and season 2 never got officially released, unfortunately.
Okay, my HBO MAX has it. So
it has both. Yeah. Human Target. Okay, well.
Or no, not a human. Oh, you're right, not human. I meant Chuck. Not yeah.
Yeah, Chuck. Yeah, that's the way to go. If you're not.
So, wonder why season 2 isn't available anywhere. Of Human Target.
Music rights. Maybe it was just that it got canceled so fast, and a lot of shows were doing that, which is just like, come on, make your money back. You gotta. If you show no effort on a product, then people aren't likely to check out your product. But unfortunately, it's just the common norm. If it doesn't get X amount of ratings, people just throw it away, which is a shame, because both of these shows are just so much fun. I can't imagine just wanting to know.
Yeah, Human Target could have kept going, and maybe Chuck went on about a season too long. But yeah, I would have enjoyed another season or two of Human Target. It's well, good concept.
Absolutely, it was great having you on.
All right,
back anytime.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a